A lot of people have asked me over the years what I thought about buying a home. I spent many years in private equity, modeling investments. I make most of my decisions by at least knowing what the numbers say. I just like building Excel models, I guess. So with all these people asking me, I decided to build an Excel model, and the results really surprised me. But I also know the model is incomplete. I can't capture the ability to knock down a wall without asking permission. So in this video, we'll talk about both. I'm going to walk you through the actual Excel model that I built. And you can download it by going to the link in the description. You can just plug in the numbers and see what the math says for your situation. And then I'll also give you the qualitative factors that the model ignores, factors that will eventually make even me buy, even if the numbers maybe are against me. By the end, you will know exactly how to think about this decision, not just financially, but holistically. All right, let's start with the model itself. So what you can see here is the exact Excel model that I built. Let's start with the assumptions at the top. We're going to start off with the assumption of, first of all, buying a house and what that means. I'm assuming a price. Let's put this in at 500,000. I was playing around with it earlier. So you can put in any number you want, but let's make it 500,000 just to see what happens. It's a realistic starting point, I think. Right, we're going to have a down payment. Keep in mind the blue cells are the ones that you can adjust yourself. The black ones are the calculations, so don't touch these cells. So we're only going to look at the blue numbers that we can change. Down payment, let's say 20%. Obviously, that depends on the actual mortgage. That can be refined, but I think 20% is a good starting point. Then that means we have a down payment of 100,000. That's 20% of 500,000. And then you have the mortgage amount, which is 400,000. Let's say you take that mortgage out for 20 years. I mean, you could make that longer or shorter. It's up to you, but I think 20 years is a good starting point as well. Let's start 1st of January 26, and that means that that's the end of the mortgage. I'm calculating this so that you can have this mortgage length flexible. It doesn't need to concern you. Interest rate, I'm assuming here a 5% interest rate. I think that's pretty fair right now for buying a house. I mean, you're going to have to get your own quote if you really are serious about going through with this. House appreciation, let's assume houses increase by 3% per year. That is sort of the increase of your net worth. Is going to depend a lot on that because you're going to be heavily invested in real estate in that particular house, but it's hopefully going to go up. It doesn't always go up, but assume 3% here. And then this is a very important factor that a lot of people miss when they're talking about like wanting to get a house and live rent-free and for free, basically. It's not actually for free because if you own the house, you have to pay for all the taxes that are associated with it, and also you have to take care of all the maintenance, right? You're going to probably refurb it throughout. You're going to want to get in new bathrooms, like you're going to want to do all these things, and you're going to have to pay for it. We're assuming 2% of the value of the house here. So here below, you will see now the payments, the down payment, the mortgage payment, the maintenance payments, how much that is cumulative. So throughout as the years progress, how much money you've spent on that house. And there is the value of the house. Your net worth as a homeowner is therefore the net worth of you as the homeowner is therefore the value of the house minus the 400,000 that you've taken out as a mortgage, because net worth means all of your assets minus your liabilities. So you're starting at 100,000, and then that goes up, and it will eventually merge with the value of the house because eventually you're going to have paid off that mortgage. So you can see at the end of year 20, that number aligns. And by year 21, you have value of the house is equal to your net worth because you have no more debts. Great. So let's see. This is the schedule here, beginning of period and end of period, because obviously you only have to pay interest on the outstanding loan. So that changes over the years. As you can see, the interest payments go down as you repay the loan every year. You repay 20,000, and therefore that principal decreases and your interest payments are lower. For your information, I put in a per month equivalent calculation here, so you can see the cost of living in your house per month in that specific year. And you can see that decreases, and then it goes obviously down by quite a lot once you are the full owner of your house because you no longer have these mortgage payments. Pretty straightforward. You can see that by year 20, your house has nicely appreciated, but we'll talk about this at a later stage. Now let's look at option 2. Option 2 is renting. What happens if you rent? So the most important assumption here is that you will, as a renter, invest any additional money that you have into the stock market. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's go through the assumptions here. You have the price to rent ratio, which is 20 in this case. I think 20 is a fair assumption. I've looked at a few cities. These are usually big cities that I looked at: Zurich, London, Dubai. There's usually a price to rent ratio of around 20. So that means that it would take about 20 years of paying rent for you to repay the amount of the value of the house, assuming that there is no increase in rent or increase in value of the house. It's just to this day. You can also turn this around and make it like the rent is 5% of the total value of the house. And we are looking, obviously, trying to compare apples to apples. So we're looking at a house that is worth 500,000. That is roughly the factor that I see around. This translates to around 2,000 of monthly rent. This is not as important, but I just thought I would give it to you as a comparison because we have a monthly equivalent as well here in the ownership model. But what we're really looking at is the annual rent of 25,000. Obviously, that rent is expected to increase. I'm planning on 1.5% per year. That is obviously looking at a per year, every year increase. It's likely to be more bumpy than that. Like you'll have no increases for a bit and then you'll have a 5% increase. That obviously can happen. And then this is also the crucial number for this model to work, or for this to be very important. Like whichever way you look at it is the market return. I'm assuming a rather conservative 7% here, but you feel free to adapt that for your purposes or for your risk appetite as well. Now, below here, you have the schedule of payments with the investment and renting case. So we start at 100,000 because this is, if you remember, the down payment that we had. So we're assuming that we have 100,000 to invest. And instead of buying a house, we are putting it into the stock market. Now, this will obviously increase every year by taking this number, increase by 7%. That's why we have a 7,000 gain in the first year. And then we are investing everything that we would have spent on mortgage and maintenance. So basically these payments here, we would have spent them on the house and we are now investing it into the market. We're deducting the rent because that we have to pay now compared to the other model. And that gives us a end of period investment portfolio value. And this then is carried forward and it goes through like this and continues to develop like this. And you can check this out for yourself. But what is interesting now, I want to take 3 points in time when we look at this. And I want to see what's the comparison of value, right? So after 10 years, the house is valued at 652,000, whereas your investments are still at 484,000. So here, after 10 years, you would say, okay, the house has actually outperformed the investments. But I think I made a mistake here in taking the value of the house. This should actually be the net worth. So yeah, this is actually the net worth. So let me just fix that quickly. After year 10, net worth. Yeah, so here investments are slightly ahead after 10 years. Let's take it if after year 20, net worth, here we go. And then after 50 years, net worth of the homeowner goes up to 50 years, year 50, net worth, this one. All right, so we have you can see the investment model is winning slightly after 10 years. But what you always have to consider also is this investment return, because this is the 7% of basically the next year's return on that investment that you will likely see at that 7% assumed increase. Okay, so let's continue here. After 20 years, your house as a homeowner, your net worth will be 856,000. And here you're already ahead with the investment model. You will have, on top of having that investment portfolio, you will also have an investment return of 71,000 in the following year. After 50 years, this is talking obviously to young people who are going to live until they are very old, and considering buying a home right now, I think we're all going to be, hopefully, if we don't get run over by a bus, we're going to hopefully see a very old age and hopefully all be very fit by then. But let's just assume after 50 years, we have as a homeowner, we have a net worth of 2.1 million. And look at this, your investment portfolio will almost be at 7 million after 50 years. And you'll have an investment return of 457,000 per year, increasing if you don't spend it all. So this is really the difference. And you can see this is obviously the effect of compound interest. Compound interest is just a very, very powerful thing that is actually quite difficult for our brains to comprehend what it means. So I've put together a graph here as well. And this really shows you when it starts to get really crazy. You can see in the first couple years, it's fairly similar, right? You're probably gonna not really notice that much of a difference. You're gonna probably be paying that rent and you're gonna be thinking, oh, I wish I would own a house. But if you actually stick with your model and you do invest consistently, then you will get a very big difference here, because this is the effect of compound interest that will just kick in and take your net worth as a 7% increase per year, just take it to a completely another level. All right, so this is the comparison of the spreadsheet. So financially, everything points to renting being the best option. It comes down to what the ratio is between buying and renting. That number we were talking about, the 20 that I assumed, or the 5%, that can be different from area to area. Now, what would be some reasons to buy anyway, right? I said before, I probably want to be a homeowner one day. So what are some of the reasons behind that? And I think the first reason is if you just want to own a home, that's a perfectly fine reason. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a lot of people's dreams to own their own homes. And it's about being able to do the renovation they want. It's about waking up in the morning and not having to think about other people owning a key, waking you up with news of something that you wouldn't want, a landlord having an issue wanting to look at something inside of your house. Like, no more landlord stress, essentially. But the thing is, this model only works if you meticulously invest the difference. If you don't invest the difference and you spend it, let's say, then that is obviously a big mistake, because then the model falls apart very quickly. In this compound interest model, it's about looking at this at a very early stage, and these early commitments to the portfolio are really what make the biggest difference. For some people, owning a house and having these mortgage payments that you have to meet every month is actually a better way to making sure that they do stick to that schedule. Because at the end of the day, it is about building wealth. It is about increasing your net worth and eventually becoming the master of where you want to live, because either you own the house or you have so much surplus in your finances because your portfolio has reached such a big value that you can decide where you want to live, where you want to spend your rent. But here's ultimately the last point that I want to make is, ultimately, if you know that you're not only going to spend the next couple of years, but the next decades in one location, then there's a lot of emotional security related issues that come with just wanting to own a home. And that's, I think, what it's going to be like for me as well when I eventually decide I want to own a home, when I know I found a place where I want to be very, very, very long term, where I want to raise a family and all these things. So if you're trying to make this decision right now, download the model below. It's going to be in the link in the pinned comments, and you can just plug in your numbers and see what the math says. But just remember, the math doesn't decide for you, it just informs you. And now perhaps you've decided renting makes sense financially, but if you're in your 20s or 30s, you're likely wondering about many more things, like what to consider when deciding where to live. That's just one of the things that I break down in this next video. Make sure you watch this next.